When Naomi's desperate airport message to a stranger reveals her long-lost brother, a buried family rift resurfaces. But with time running out for their dying father, can 8 years of silence be undone in just one night? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Her eyes burned from the overnight flight, and her head pounded with worry. Asked the airline representative, her smile too perfect, too practiced. She hadn't slept in 36 hours, not since the hospital called about her father. And her mission to find Marcus seemed more impossible by the minute. The bright lights of JFK Airport blinded Naomi Ellison as she stumbled through the terminal. "Miss, is there anything else I can help you with?" Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Find him, Naomi, before it's too late." 8 long years since Marcus had walked out that door after the fight with their father. 8 years of birthdays, Christmases, graduations, all with an empty chair at the table. Naomi clutched her purse tighter. "My luggage, any update? I hate to bother you, but my phone died, and I really need to send an important message. Could I please borrow yours, just for a minute?" "I'm sorry, but as I mentioned, your bags were routed to LaGuardia. We should have them delivered to you by tomorrow evening." Something in her expression must have reached him, because he reluctantly pulled an expensive phone from his jacket pocket. Her eyes landed on a man sitting alone in the corner of the lounge. She could feel his eyes studying her face as she typed, but she focused on finding the right words. He wore an expensive grey suit that fit him perfectly. His fingers moved quickly across a laptop keyboard, his face serious in concentration. Naomi nodded, too tired to argue. One more thing gone wrong. Her phone was dead. Her suitcase was missing. Would you mind reading this before I send it? I want to make sure it sounds right." There was a familiarity there, though she couldn't place it. With nothing left to lose, she approached him. She found an empty seat in the busy terminal and sat down, rubbing her temples. Naomi stared at him, unable to process the words. "Please forgive me too." Recognition dawned in his eyes, followed quickly by shock, then something that looked like fear. 8 years. "Excuse me?" she said to a woman sitting nearby. "I've been looking for you for years. Daddy is dying and you're just going to walk away again." She reached out, touching his arm to make sure he was real. Marcus, or whoever he was now, noticed and lowered his voice. Why didn't you recognize me?" Tears filled Naomi's eyes. "I found you by complete accident and you're still trying to run?" The woman shook her head and moved away slightly. Naomi sighed. New York City, just as cold as people said. She scanned the terminal, desperation growing. "MJ Carrington? We can't do this here. You've changed. Please." Outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. A driver stepped out and opened the door as they approached. "Change of plans, we'll need to make a stop. I have a car waiting." This wasn't the brother she remembered, the boy who used to play basketball in their driveway, who taught her to ride a bike, who stood up for her when kids at school were mean. "We can talk there." "The biotech guy? The doctors don't think he'll recover." From the magazine covers, 8 years of hurt and anger bubbled to the surface. "He's been asking for you, Marcus. Even when he could barely speak, he was saying your name." Something about his profile made her pause. "That's not who I am anymore." "Excuse me," Naomi said, her voice shakier than she intended, "because the brother I knew would not have changed his name and pretended his family didn't exist." The man didn't look up immediately. When he did, his dark eyes were distant, annoyed at the interruption. "The brother you knew couldn't stay, not after what happened." "It's an emergency," she added. He studied her for a moment, taking in her wrinkled clothes and tired face. "You were too young to understand. You don't just disappear for 8 years because of one bad night." "I've been taking care of Dad by myself since you left. Don't tell me what I can't understand." "Make it quick," he said, his voice deep and controlled. Marcus checked his watch, then pulled out his phone and sent a quick text. "Thank you," Naomi said, relief washing over her. "Thank you so much. You can rest, get cleaned up, and we'll talk." "Good," Naomi thought. He should hurt. He should feel something. Her hands trembled as she took the phone. This message had to be perfect. It might be her only chance. The man watched her, his attention now fully on her rather than his work. A massive living room came into focus, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the New York skyline. Make sure she drinks plenty of fluids when she wakes up. The driver opened the door and Marcus stepped out, buttoning his suit jacket. The sidewalk seemed to sway beneath her feet. She hadn't eaten since yesterday, and the stress and exhaustion were catching up to her. I appreciate you coming on such short notice. Finally, she looked up. The man raised an eyebrow, but took the phone back. He cleared his throat and began to read aloud. Marcus, it's Naomi. Daddy doesn't have long. Please come home. I forgive you. As he read, something changed in his face. The professional mask slipped. His hand began to shake slightly. His voice caught on the last words. He looked more like the brother she remembered now, less like the polished businessman. Then, so quietly she almost missed it, he whispered, I'm Marcus. The apartment was stunning, modern, minimalist, with artwork that probably cost more than her yearly salary. It was beautiful but cold somehow, impersonal, like a museum, not a home. The world seemed to stop. What did you say? She asked, though she'd heard him perfectly. He looked up at her, really looked at her for the first time. Naomi? His voice was different now, younger somehow, with traces of the Memphis accent he'd apparently worked hard to eliminate. Marcus? Weren't you on your way to find me so I could come see Dad? He stood abruptly, gathering his laptop. I need to go. Go? Marcus, wait! She grabbed his sleeve. But that name, that life, it's behind me. People were starting to stare, because you seem pretty rattled for someone who's moved on. Not here. This isn't the place. He was about Marcus's age, handsome in a rugged way, with kind eyes that immediately found Naomi on the couch. Then where? When? Are you just going to disappear again? Naomi wondered how many friends Marcus brought to his penthouse. I'm not Marcus anymore, he said firmly. My name is MJ Carrington now. Naomi's jaw dropped. Jay, Naomi said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. The mask came back up. I'm not going anywhere with you until you tell me why you didn't even recognize your own sister, Naomi said, louder than she intended. There was something steady about him that made Naomi feel at ease despite the chaos of the situation. Sister? I didn't know you had a sister. Marcus sighed, looking around nervously. It's been 8 years, Naomi. You were 18 when I left. She'll be staying here tonight. So have you, she said coldly. The brother I knew wouldn't have walked past me without a second glance. Sorry. I didn't get the memo about keeping my existence a secret. Must have been lost in the mail for the last 8 years. Pain flashed across his face, but he quickly controlled it. My car is outside. We can talk there. The please did it. Marcus had never been one to say please easily. Naomi followed him through the terminal, 1,000 questions burning in her mind. Good morning, Mr. Carrington, the driver said. Should a son visit his dying father, even if they had a falling out? What do you think, Elias? Morning, James, Marcus replied, his voice back to that polished, accent-free tone. I think family is family. Whatever happened, there won't be a chance to make it right after he's gone. Naomi slid into the car, overwhelmed by the luxury of soft leather seats and the faint smell of expensive cologne. This was a stranger. Help me understand why you changed your name, why you've Marcus got in beside her but kept his distance, sitting as far away as the seat allowed. So, he said after a long silence, Dad is sick. Dying, Naomi corrected. He had a massive stroke 3 days ago. Marcus nodded, his face unreadable. I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry? That's all you have to say? Sorry? Naomi couldn't hold back anymore. Don't call me that, he said sharply. Then who are you? Marcus, or MJ, stared out the window, his jaw tight. The fight. People fight, Marcus. Families argue. It wasn't just one night, he said quietly. It was a lifetime of nights. Naomi laughed bitterly. I'm not a child anymore. I'm 26 years old. The car moved smoothly through New York traffic, the city a blur outside the tinted windows. "Where are we going?" Naomi asked. "My apartment." "You look exhausted." "I don't need your charity." "It's not charity, Naomi. It's basic decency. Something you've suddenly remembered after 8 years." The hurt registered in his eyes before he could hide it. The car pulled up to a gleaming high-rise in Manhattan. "Come on," he said, not waiting to see if she followed. Naomi hesitated, then got out of the car. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked, noticing her unsteady steps. "I'm fine," she insisted, but the world was starting to spin. She took another step and felt her knees buckle. The last thing she saw before darkness closed in was Marcus rushing toward her, genuine fear on his face. Naomi woke to the sound of quiet voices. She was lying on something soft. A couch, she realized, opening her eyes. "She's dehydrated and exhausted," a man's voice was saying. "Thank you, Dr. Feldman," came Marcus's voice. "Anything for you, MJ. Just call if her condition changes." Naomi closed her eyes, pretending to still be asleep as footsteps approached. "You can stop pretending," Marcus said. "I know you're awake." She opened her eyes to find him standing over her, his suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up. "What happened?" she asked, sitting up slowly. "You fainted. When was the last time you ate?" Naomi had to think about it. "Yesterday morning, maybe." Marcus shook his head and walked to the kitchen area. "I'm making you something to eat, don't argue." She was too tired to argue anyway. Instead, she took in her surroundings. "Nice place," she said. Marcus returned with a glass of water. "Drink this." "All of it." She took the glass and drank, suddenly aware of how thirsty she was. "How did you do it?" she asked. "Become this, MJ Carrington, billionaire." He turned away, busying himself in the kitchen. "It's a long story. I've got time." "Do you?" he asked, looking back at her. The reminder hit her hard. "Yes, and you need to come. Whatever happened between you two, it's time to let it go." "Let it go," he repeated flatly. "Just like that." "He's dying, Marcus." "Stop calling me that," he snapped, then immediately regained his composure. "I'm sorry." "Is it?" Before he could answer, the elevator doors opened and a man stepped into the apartment. "Elias," Marcus said, sounding relieved. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," the man, Elias, replied, his eyes still on Naomi. "Is this your friend?" The hesitation was slight but noticeable. "This is Naomi," Marcus said, then added reluctantly, "My sister." Elias's eyebrows shot up. "There's a lot you don't know about him." Elias approached, extending his hand. "Elias Quinn, I work with your brother." His handshake was warm and firm, his smile genuine. "Naomi Ellison," she replied, "the forgotten family member." "Naomi," Marcus warned. "What? Am I embarrassing you in front of your friend?" Elias glanced between them. "I can come back later if this isn't a good time." "No," Marcus said. "We have that meeting at 2. I just need to get Naomi settled." "I will?" Naomi asked. "Unless you have somewhere else to go. A hotel booked?" She didn't. Her plan had been to find Marcus and go straight back to Memphis with him. She hadn't thought beyond that. "I'm not going to Memphis," Marcus said firmly. "Your father is dying," Elias said, surprise evident in his voice. Marcus shot him a look. "This doesn't concern you, Elias." "Actually," Naomi interjected, "I'd love to hear what Elias thinks." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You don't know the situation." "Then explain it to me," Naomi said. "Been hiding from us while you walked past your own sister without recognizing her." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made Naomi's heart ache. "I didn't recognize you because I trained myself not to look for you. I taught myself to forget faces from before. It was the only way I could function. Elias will show you to the guest room. There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself. We can talk more when I get back." The raw honesty in his voice silenced her. "I need to get ready for the meeting," he said, regaining his composure. Intense, focused. The most disciplined person I've ever met. Elias sat down in the chair across from her. But I've never seen him rattled like this before. You must have been close once. Without waiting for a response, Marcus walked down the hallway and disappeared into a room, closing the door behind him. Elias turned to Naomi with an apologetic smile. He's not usually this. No? What's he usually like? Controlled. Dad had been drinking, which wasn't unusual. He said some terrible things to Marcus, about his choices, his future. Things escalated. I tried to step in and Naomi wiped away a tear. Not a hair out of place, not a wrinkle in his fresh suit. I don't understand how he could just leave me behind. Are you sure you should go? Maybe you should stay, talk things through with your sister. We were, Naomi said softly. He was my hero growing up. Whenever I was scared or sad, Marcus was there. The guest room is down the hall on the right. There's a key card on the counter if you need to go out. His phone was disconnected. His friends didn't know where he'd gone. It was like he vanished. I looked for him for years. Promise me you'll talk when you get back. Really talk. And all this time he was becoming MJ. Inside were new clothes, simple but expensive. A note read, "Thought you might want something fresh to wear. M." We'll talk then. Carrington. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and picked up her now charged phone. She had to call the hospital, let them know she'd found Marcus but needed more time to convince him to come home. When she emerged, she found her phone plugged in, charging on the nightstand. Marcus must have done that before he left. Got your number from MJ's phone. He's struggling more than he's showing. Don't give up on him. It was beautiful but sterile. No photos, no mementos, nothing personal. It was as if Marcus MJ had erased every trace of his past. Called hospitals, shelters, posted online, nothing. She'd fallen asleep waiting for Marcus to return, her body finally surrendering to exhaustion. Just one night to break through 8 years of walls. He protected me, made me laugh when things got bad at home. What happened? Between him and your father? Maybe it's about not having regrets in the future. The bathroom was stocked with expensive toiletries. Everything perfect, everything empty. Naomi shook her head. A huge fight. I was 18, about to leave for college. Mine was complicated. She trailed off, the memory still painful. I'm being practical. My father made his feelings about me perfectly clear 8 years ago. A deathbed reunion won't change that. I deserve to know what happened, why you left, why you became this. And, Elias prompted gently, and I got hurt. Not badly, just a bruise from getting between them. But Marcus, she deserves to know why her brother disappeared. He looked at Dad like he didn't know him anymore. After I left that night, I had nowhere to go. I wasn't going to drag you into my mess. I stayed in a motel for a few days, then took a bus to New York. I had about $300 to my name. He walked out that night, left a note saying he was sorry, that he loved me but he couldn't stay. Rented a room in an apartment with 4 other guys. It was a change from home. Marcus smiled thinly. One night I was taking out the trash after my shift, and I overheard 2 men talking in the alley. They were discussing a new cancer treatment they were developing, arguing about a problem with the formula. Elias asked, though from his expression, Naomi suspected he'd heard parts of this story before. Naomi asked, "Why completely erase Marcus Ellison? He was always wrong. That I was wasting my time with fancy book learning when I should be working a real job, that I'd end up a nobody. You, with your chemistry degree, had the answer. A son who couldn't meet his father's expectations, who couldn't protect his sister, who couldn't..." He stopped, composing himself. I became MJ Carrington to forget Marcus Ellison ever existed. Naomi, it was a pleasure to meet you despite the circumstances. MJ Carrington could be whoever I wanted him to be. No past, no baggage, just potential. I thought he'd cool off, come back in a few days. But he didn't. Both men turned to look at her. Marcus was pouring a drink at the bar, while Elias sat on one of the sleek leather sofas. They thought I was crazy at first. This dishwasher in a stained apron talking about molecular biology. But one of them, Dr. Richard Carrington, gave me a chance to explain my theory. When he died 3 years later, he left me his research and enough money to start Carrington Biotech. as a person, not just a boss. The city lights twinkled behind them through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The only person I've really trusted since... He trailed off. No. Elias's eyes were sympathetic. We got talking about business models one night. He had an MBA but was drowning in student debt. When I started the company, he was my first hire, Naomi asked as they stepped back inside from the terrace. It was even larger than she'd initially thought, with a home gym, an office, and a terrace with a small garden. Apparently. Before Elias could respond, Marcus emerged from the bedroom, once again the picture of a successful businessman. He handles all the business aspects I have no patience for. I'm at the office most of the time. Ready? He asked Elias, barely glancing at Naomi. Elias stood. The Westover deal won't close itself, Marcus replied coolly. We'll be back by 7. Naomi, make yourself at home. Marcus, Naomi said, standing up despite her dizziness, to make himself feel better before he goes. Something flickered in his eyes, regret maybe or longing. One night, Naomi, you can stay one night. They ate at the dining table, making awkward small talk about Naomi's job as a teacher in Memphis and the weather in New York. After they left, Naomi explored the apartment. Do you know what it was like, growing up with him? He'd go in there sometimes, just sit on your bed and stare at your things. The constant criticism, the belittling, the drunken rages. He stopped pacing, his back to her. He said he wished I'd never been born. Marcus turned to face her. Because I remember every word of that night. He said I was worthless, that I'd always been in the guest room. She found a large bed with crisp white linens. What is there to say? He's dying. I'm sorry about that. But going back won't change anything. She showered, letting the hot water wash away the grime of travel and the shock of the day's events. The small gesture of kindness made her throat tight with emotion. Her brother was still in there somewhere, beneath the M.J. Carrington persona. As she got dressed in the clothes she'd been wearing since Memphis, she noticed a shopping bag on the bed that hadn't been there before. Naomi held the clothes against her chest and finally let the tears come. One night, he'd said. It wasn't enough time, but it was a start. How the guilt ate at him. She put on the new clothes, surprised that they fit perfectly. As she scrolled through her contacts, a text message appeared from an unknown number. This is Elias. Naomi stared at the message, a small spark of hope warming her chest. She wasn't alone in this anymore. She had an ally in Elias Quinn. One night to change her brother's mind. One night to heal 8 years of absence. It wasn't enough time, but with Elias's help, maybe, just maybe, she could bring Marcus home before it was too late. Naomi woke to the sound of voices in the living room. The digital clock on the nightstand read 7:30 p.m. She slipped out of bed and moved quietly to the door, listening. You can't just pretend this isn't happening, Elias was saying, his voice firm but gentle. She's your sister. I'm well aware of who she is, Marcus replied, his tone clipped. Then why won't you go back with her? What are you so afraid of? I'm not afraid, Marcus snapped. Maybe it's not about changing the past, Elias said. There was a long pause, then the sound of ice clinking in a glass. You don't understand, Marcus said finally, his voice softer now. You had a normal family. So explain it to me, Elias urged. Or better yet, explain it to Naomi. Naomi pushed the door open and stepped into the hallway. I'm all ears, she said, crossing her arms over her chest. Marcus set down the bottle with a controlled movement. How was your rest? Don't change the subject, Naomi said, walking further into the room. Elias is right. She gestured at the penthouse, at his expensive suit, at all the trappings of M.J. Carrington's life. Marcus took a slow sip of his drink. It's not a simple story. I've got time. Naomi sat down across from Elias, who gave her an encouraging nod. Marcus remained standing, looking out at the city below. You could have called me, Naomi said. I would have helped you. He shook his head. You were about to start college. You had your whole future ahead of you. So what did you do? I got a job washing dishes at a restaurant in Queens. And let me guess, Naomi said. Marcus nodded. I couldn't help myself. I interrupted them, told them their approach was wrong. And that's where the name came from, Elias said. Carrington. Richard became my mentor, Marcus continued. He gave me a job in his lab, helped me finish my degree under a new name. But why change your name? Marcus finally turned to face her. Because Marcus Ellison was a failure, a disappointment. The raw pain in his voice made Naomi's anger falter. You weren't a failure, Marcus. Dad was wrong about you, was he? Marcus set his glass down harder than necessary. He said I'd never amount to anything. You became a billionaire to prove Dad wrong? Naomi asked incredulously. No, Marcus said, his voice quieter now. The three of them sat in silence for a moment, the weight of his words filling the room. Finally, Elias spoke. I should go. You two have a lot to talk about. He stood, straightening his jacket. You don't have to leave, she said quickly, not wanting to lose her ally. Elias smiled warmly. Family matters should be private, but I hope we'll see each other again before you go. After he left, the silence grew heavier. Naomi watched her brother, this stranger in expensive clothes, and tried to reconcile him with the Marcus she remembered. Your friend seems nice, she said finally. Elias is the best, Marcus agreed, seeming relieved by the change of subject. I wouldn't have built Carrington Biotech without him. How did you meet? A small smile crossed Marcus's face. He was tending bar at a place I used to go to when I was still working for Richard. He cares about you, Naomi observed. He's a good friend, Marcus said simply. Since me, Naomi finished for him. Marcus looked away. Are you hungry? We could order something. Again with the deflection, but Naomi realized she was starving. Food would be good. Marcus picked up his phone. Italian, okay. Fine. While they waited for the food, Marcus gave her a proper tour of the penthouse. Do you ever actually use all this space? Not really, Marcus admitted. It doesn't feel like a home, she said before she could stop herself. It's not meant to, he replied. It's just a place to sleep. The honesty of his answer surprised her. Don't you get lonely? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. I've gotten used to being alone. The food arrived, saving him from further personal questions. You're avoiding the real conversation, Naomi said finally, setting down her fork. About Dad. Marcus sighed. It would mean everything to him to see you one last time. To ease his conscience, you mean? Marcus said bitterly. Is that so wrong? To want peace at the end? What about my peace? Marcus stood up, pacing the room. Of course I know, Naomi said. I was there too, but I also saw how he tried to change after you left. Burden. That the only good thing I ever did was look after you, and even at that I failed. Naomi felt sick. Failed how? Marcus's face closed off. It doesn't matter now. It does to me, she insisted. What did he mean? Marcus ran a hand through his hair, that familiar gesture again. He blamed me for what happened to you. The incident with Tommy Richardson. Naomi felt the blood drain from her face. But I was studying for finals, lost track of time. If I'd been there on time... Naomi stood up, shaking. What Tommy tried to do to me wasn't your fault. I never blamed you for that. Tommy was the only one responsible for what happened. Not you, not me, and I fought him off, remember? Nothing actually happened. Never. Tommy Richardson. A name she'd tried hard to forget. That wasn't your fault. I was supposed to pick you up from that party, Marcus said, his voice hollow. Stop. Dad did. He said if I'd been a better brother, you wouldn't have been attacked. And he was right. That's all I'm asking for. Fly down with me tomorrow, see Dad, fly back the next day. No, he wasn't. Naomi's voice rose. You said yourself he runs the business side of things. But it could have, Marcus said, his controlled facade cracking, and it would have been my fault. He stepped away, answering with a curt, Carrington. The transformation from Marcus to MJ happening right before her eyes. Naomi crossed the room and grabbed his arms, forcing him to look at her. Listen to me, that night was not your fault. Make yourself comfortable, I shouldn't be too long. And Dad was wrong to say it was. He was drunk and angry and looking for someone to blame. Marcus met her eyes, and for the first time she saw her brother again, vulnerable, caring, hurting. I have to go to the lab, there's an issue with the trial results. I've carried that guilt for 10 years, Naomi. I'm telling you, as the person who was actually there, that you have nothing to feel guilty about. I'm sorry, Naomi. We'll continue this when I get back, I promise. She picked up a framed award on a shelf. Innovator of the Year, M.J. Carrington. There were others like it. Awards, recognitions, achievements, but nothing personal. No photos, no mementos. Nothing of Marcus. Thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. He can be intense. He had a way of filling a space with warmth, even more so lately with the new drug trial. It's decaf. Figured you've had enough excitement for one day. Well, put it down, she said firmly. Even if I wanted to, I can't just drop everything and leave. I have a company to run, responsibilities. Though now that I've met you, I understand why. It must have been painful to leave you behind, Naomi asked, the hurt still fresh despite the years. We started talking about the night he left, but then he got that call. She trailed off, then looked at Elias curiously. How much do you know about his past? And over time, those walls became so high that he couldn't see over them anymore. Couldn't remember what was on the other side. He pulled away, composing himself again. It's not that simple. Bits and pieces. I know he came from somewhere down south, that he had a difficult relationship with his father, that he changed his name when he moved to New York, but he's never talked much about his life before. So yes, sometimes those responsibilities have to come first, Elias said with a small smile. M.J. Carrington is brilliant, driven, successful. Why? Why do you care so much about this? And I want to help if I can. But he's not happy, Naomi. Anyone who knows him can see that. It can be, she insisted. Just come home with me, talk to Dad, clear the air before it's too late. Marcus shook his head. After Mom died, he did his best in his own way. I was drowning in debt, drinking too much, heading nowhere fast. Cancer. Naomi traced the rim of her cup. Dad didn't handle it well. Started drinking more, working longer hours. Marcus basically raised me after that. He gave me a chance when no one else would. I owe him. More important than family, he helped me with homework, made sure I ate, came to every school event. Even when he started college, he'd drive home on weekends just to check on me. Carrington Biotech employs over 5,000 people, Naomi. We're on the verge of a breakthrough that could save millions of lives. Straight to voicemail. Though I'm not sure coffee is strong enough for dealing with my brother. Ever. Naomi sat back down, feeling defeated. One day, but if he doesn't turn up soon, I'll take you there. What? He sometimes goes off-grid when he needs to think. There's a place he goes, but he left over an hour ago. Where would he go? Or doesn't cope, depending on how you look at it. Marcus hesitated. I have meetings. That Elias can handle, she countered. Tears came, and then sobs that shook her whole body. Isn't that exactly what he did 8 years ago? Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. I need to take this, it's the lab. I don't usually fall apart like that. He pulled her into a hug, holding her while she cried for her dying father, for her lost brother, for 8 years of emptiness. Naomi watched him, the way he straightened his posture, the way his voice changed, becoming more authoritative, more distant. After a brief conversation, he ended the call and turned back to her. In case Marcus, MJ, comes back late. Naomi looked away first, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. I'll stay a while longer, if that's okay, just in case he calls or comes back. Now, it's after 9. When things get emotionally difficult, Marcus runs. Checking the time, 2:17 a.m. She slipped out of bed and into the hallway. Science doesn't keep office hours, he said, already heading toward the door. Marcus, wait. It's MJ, he corrected automatically, then sighed at her hurt expression. Just helping a friend. Elias shouldn't have told you that, and maybe making a new one. Thank you, Elias. Better than I deserve. For everything. After he left, Naomi wandered the empty apartment, feeling more alone than ever. Her phone chimed with a text message. It was from Elias. How's it going with your brother? Any progress? She typed back. He just left for the lab emergency with trial results. When she finally drifted off, her dreams were a confusing mix of past and present. Marcus shooting hoops in their driveway, MJ Carrington on magazine covers, her father sitting alone in an empty house waiting. "I'll go with you tomorrow, one day, like you said, in and out." "Really? What changed your mind?" A moment later, "Typical. Mind if I stop by?" Left some documents he needs to sign. "About regrets. I have enough of those already." "This won't be the happy reunion you're imagining." Naomi hesitated, then replied, "Sure, I could use the company anyway." Elias was asleep on the couch, a fact that seemed to surprise Marcus. "I have a meeting in the morning I can't miss. I'll have my assistant book the flights." "You're lucky to have someone like that in your life." Then he nodded once and walked away, disappearing into his bedroom without another word. She'd gotten what she wanted. Marcus was coming home. But at what cost? And what would happen when they got there? 20 minutes later, Elias arrived with a folder of papers and 2 cups of coffee. "Naomi, don't expect too much from this visit. People don't change, not really. Dad is still Dad, and I'm not the person you remember." "Thanks," she said, genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness. "But you're still my brother. That hasn't changed." Elias laughed. They sat in the living room, and Naomi was struck by how much more comfortable the place felt with Elias there. "So, did you make any headway before he rushed off?" Elias asked. "He stayed to make sure I came back." Naomi sighed. "Not really, he's still refusing to come home." Elias considered the question. "Not even about me?" "Especially not about you," Elias said gently. "Then why did he?" Elias set his coffee down. "I think, and this is just my observation, that MJ Marcus built walls to protect himself." "Until I showed up at the airport," Naomi said. "Until you showed up," Elias agreed. "I've never seen him rattled like that." "Is that a good thing?" "I think it might be the best thing that's happened to him in years." The simple observation brought tears to Naomi's eyes. "I just want my brother back, the real one." "I know," Elias said softly. Naomi studied him. Elias met her gaze steadily. "Because MJ saved my life once. Not literally, but pretty close." "That sounds like the Marcus I knew," Naomi said. "Always taking care of people." "Except himself," Elias added. They fell into a comfortable silence, sipping their coffee and looking out at the city lights. "Tell me about your father," Elias said after a while. "What's he like?" Naomi considered the question. "Complicated. He can be harsh, judgmental. He was always tougher on Marcus than on me, but he can also be funny, generous. When did you lose your mother?" "I was 10. Marcus was 16. That's a lot of responsibility for a teenager," Elias observed. "He never complained," Naomi said. "Not once." "No wonder you're so determined to bring him back," Elias said. "You two were a team." "We were," Naomi agreed, feeling the loss all over again. "Until we weren't." Elias's phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. "That's strange. The lab says MJ never showed up." Naomi sat up straighter. "I don't know," Elias said, already dialing. After a moment, he shook his head. "Should we be worried?" Naomi asked, a knot forming in her stomach. "Not yet," Elias said, though he looked concerned. "What place?" Elias hesitated. "It's not my place to say." Naomi stood, suddenly restless. "I don't understand him anymore. The brother I knew wouldn't just disappear when things got tough. Wouldn't he?" Elias asked gently. The observation hit Naomi like a slap. "You're right," she said quietly. "It's how he copes," Elias said. "I can't lose him again," Naomi said, her voice breaking. "Not when I just found him." Elias stood, and after a moment's hesitation, put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You won't, I promise. The simple touch broke something in Naomi. After a day of holding herself together, of being strong, she felt herself crumbling. Elias didn't hesitate this time. "I'm sorry," she said, pulling away and wiping her eyes. "You've had a hell of a day," Elias said with a small smile. "I think you're entitled." Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, a connection forming, delicate but real. "I should probably try to get some rest," she said, stepping back. Of course, Elias said. You don't have to do that. I know, he said simply, but I want to. Naomi nodded, grateful for his presence. No need to thank me, he said. In her room, Naomi lay awake for hours thinking about her brother, about her father back in Memphis, about Elias Quinn and his kind eyes. She woke with a start to the sound of the front door opening. Marcus was hanging his coat in the closet, his movements careful, controlled. Where were you? Naomi asked quietly. Marcus turned, not startled, as if he'd known she was there. I needed to think. The lab called. They said you never showed up. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. He was worried about you. We both were. Marcus glanced at Elias's sleeping form, his expression softening slightly. He's a good friend. Where did you go? Naomi pressed. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, Brooklyn Bridge. I walk it sometimes, when I need to clear my head. In the middle of the night? It's quieter then, peaceful. He moved to the bar and poured himself a drink, his back to her. I'll go with you. It took Naomi a second to process his words. What? To Memphis, he clarified, turning to face her. Joy and relief flooded through her. Ooh. Marcus took a sip of his drink, his eyes distant. Something Elias said earlier. Naomi wanted to hug him but sensed he wasn't ready for that. Instead, she nodded. Thank you. It's the right thing, Marcus. Don't thank me yet, he said grimly. Maybe not, she admitted. But it's a start. Marcus finished his drink and set the glass down. We'll leave tomorrow afternoon. Okay, Naomi agreed, too relieved to argue about the timing. Marcus glanced at Elias again. He cares about you, Naomi said. Something like regret flashed across Marcus's face. I know. He turned to go, then paused. Maybe not, she said. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Naomi stood in the hallway, torn between hope and apprehension. She glanced at Elias, still asleep on the couch, his face peaceful. There was something solid about him, something trustworthy. In the chaos of the past 24 hours, he'd been her one constant. Quietly, she found a blanket in a closet and draped it over him. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. Thank you, she whispered, though he couldn't hear her. Back in her room, Naomi sent a text to her father's nurse. Found him. Coming home tomorrow. Tell Dad to hold on. Then she lay awake, watching the city lights through the window, thinking about bridges. The ones you cross, the ones you burn, and the ones you build back piece by painful piece. The Memphis airport hadn't changed much in the 8 years since Marcus had left. Same beige walls, same blues music playing softly over the speakers, same humid air that hit you the moment you stepped off the plane. What had changed was Marcus himself. As he walked through the terminal in his tailored suit, pulling a sleek carry-on bag, people turned to look. Naomi asked as they waited for their car service, not because they recognized him as Marcus Ellison, but because he carried himself like someone important. You okay? Marcus nodded stiffly. Fine. Naomi could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. Dad never got around to repainting it like he always talked about. He hadn't said more than a dozen words since they'd boarded the private jet in New York. A far cry from the commercial flight she'd taken to find him. He wasn't fine. The house looks the same, she said, as they drove through familiar streets. Marcus stared out the window, his face unreadable. How bad is he, medically speaking? You came all the way to New York to find me. I'm not backing out now. Naomi sighed. A middle-aged woman in scrubs appeared from the kitchen. Naomi used her key, then stepped aside to let Marcus enter first. The stroke affected the left side of his brain. He can't move his right side at all. I'm Angela, your father's home nurse. His speech is limited, a few words mostly. Walter Ellison lay propped against pillows, a thin figure with a face mapped by hard living and harder losses. His right side seemed slack, lifeless, but his left eye widened when he saw Marcus. The modest two-story house came into view, white siding, blue shutters, a porch swing that had seen better days. The doctors say he could have another stroke any time. Does he know I'm coming? Yes. The nurse said he smiled when she told him. Marcus made a non-committal sound, then fell silent again. As they turned onto their old street, Naomi noticed Marcus's hands tighten on his knees. Home sweet home, Naomi said softly. Then he stepped forward and briefly clasped his father's hand before quickly releasing it. This was never sweet, Marcus replied, his voice low, and it was never really home. Nice of you to finally admit I'm right about something. Walter's eyes never left Marcus's face, drinking in the sight of his long-lost son. Marcus stood rigid, as if bracing for a blow. The car stopped in the driveway. For a moment, neither of them moved. We can still turn around, Naomi offered, suddenly uncertain. If you're not ready. Fine. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me. Marcus looked at her, his expression softening slightly. They walked up the familiar cracked path to the front door. The house smelled of disinfectant and something medicinal, so different from the beer and TV dinners smell of their childhood. You must be Naomi's brother, she said, extending her hand. Marcus shook her hand automatically. How is he today? Awake and alert, Angela replied. He's been asking for you all morning. Well, in his way. I didn't even know until 2 days ago. She led them to the living room where the hospital bed had been set up. Did you know he's actually M.J. Carrington, the biotech billionaire? What? The M.J. Carrington? I saw him on the cover of Time last year. Son, he managed, the words slurred but unmistakable. I guess that's one way to look at it. Like someone who's had to protect himself. Marcus stopped in the doorway, his face a careful mask. Hello, Dad. Naomi moved past him to kiss their father's forehead. Look who I found, Daddy. Just like I promised. Walter reached out with his good hand, fingers trembling. Ma, cuss. Naomi called, torn between following him and staying with her agitated father. For a terrible moment, Naomi thought Marcus wouldn't take it. I'll give you some privacy, Angela said, slipping out of the room. Being on your deathbed doesn't give you the right to rewrite history. An awkward silence fell. Like saying sorry could erase everything he did, everything he said. They found Marcus standing over a broken lamp, his face flushed with anger, because it seems to me he's still manipulating everyone around him. This might be your only chance to make peace, making you fly across the country to find me, making me feel guilty enough to come back here. But now that you're here, can't you try? For your own sake, if not for his. Remember when Tommy Richardson's friends were bullying that new kid in school? You stepped in even though they were bigger than you. When I asked why, you said everyone deserves a second chance. You look good, Walter said, each word a struggle. You look terrible, Marcus replied bluntly. Marcus, Naomi warned. No, Walter said, waving his good hand. He's right. Marcus moved to the window, looking out at the yard where they'd played as children. He hung up, already pulling out his laptop. I'm not that person anymore, Naomi. Naomi winced at the bitterness in his voice. Can we not do this? Please? The FDA is questioning some of our trial data. I need to get back to New York. You always did see the best in people, Naomi, even when they didn't deserve it. I ended up with a black eye for my trouble. Elias. What's wrong? Walter's breathing had become labored. Need to talk. Marcus. Alone. Who put her life on hold to make sure he wasn't alone? Don't talk to me about responsibility. Naomi hesitated. Are you sure that's a good idea? Please, her father insisted. She glanced at Marcus, who gave a short nod. You think your life, your work, your problems are more important than anyone else's? That's why you left. That's why you're leaving again. As she closed the door behind her, she heard Marcus say, So, you're dying. I think my brother is still in there somewhere. In the kitchen, Naomi found Angela preparing medications. He's been waiting for this day, Angela said, nodding toward the living room, talking about his son coming home. I just hope they don't kill each other before they make peace, Naomi said, only half joking. But that's not why I came back. A few minutes later, she heard him speaking to Angela, probably making arrangements for a car. Always practical, always in control, even when breaking her heart all over again. Your brother seemed intense. You have no idea, Naomi sighed, pouring herself a glass of water. Angela nearly dropped the pill organizer. That's him. He changed his name after he left. No wonder he seemed so, Angela searched for the right word. Different. Cold. Like he has a stick up his... Guarded, Angela finished diplomatically. Naomi considered this. A crash from the living room had them both rushing to the door. You don't get to say that to me, he was saying to Walter. Not after what you did. Short, Walter continued, the effort of speaking clearly taxing him. Say things. Marcus, stop, Naomi pleaded, moving between them. He's sick. Being sick doesn't erase the past, Marcus snapped. It's a little late for that. Walter was struggling to sit up, his face red with exertion. Not rewriting, trying to fix. He looked up, meeting his father's gaze. It's too late for that, Marcus said coldly. 8 years too late. Took it out. On you. He stormed past them, heading for the front door. Marcus, wait, both, Walter said, his good hand reaching out. But I'm glad I came. I don't know, but I won't disappear again, I promise. Let him go, Angela advised, checking Walter's pulse. Give him some space. I can't lose him again, Naomi said, already moving toward the door. She found Marcus on the porch, pacing like a caged animal. What happened in there? She demanded. He tried to apologize, Marcus said, his voice tight with emotion. People change, Marcus, even Dad. Do they? He's dying, Naomi said quietly. I didn't come for peace, Marcus said, stopping his pacing to look at her. I came for you because you asked me to. The simple honesty of his statement caught her off guard. Thank you for that. Marcus leaned against the porch railing, suddenly looking tired. I learned that from you, she said, moving to stand beside him. A ghost of a smile touched Marcus's lips. But you made a difference. That kid never forgot what you did. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I think you are, she countered, under all that MJ Carrington armor. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. He checked it, then answered. Naomi couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she saw Marcus's expression change from annoyed to concerned. When did this happen? He asked. No, don't let them. I'll be on the next flight back. What's going on? Naomi asked. Problems at the company, Marcus replied, typing rapidly. Now? We just got here. This is my company on the line, Naomi. Thousands of jobs, years of research. And this is your father, she countered, who might not be alive tomorrow. Marcus looked torn for the first time since she'd found him. I can't just ignore this. It's too important. More important than family, again. This isn't about priorities, Marcus said, his voice rising. This is about responsibilities, something you wouldn't understand. The word stung. Wouldn't understand? Who do you think has been taking care of Dad for the past 3 years? Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did, Naomi said, hurt and anger mingling in her voice. That's not fair. Neither is this, she shot back. Neither is any of it. But here we are. Marcus closed his laptop with a snap. I'm sorry, Naomi, I have to go. The last flight leaves in 2 hours. Then go, she said, turning away to hide her tears. It's what you do best anyway. She heard him hesitate, then his footsteps as he went back into the house. When she finally went back inside, Marcus was in the living room with Walter. Their father looked pale but calmer. I need to leave, Marcus was saying. There's an emergency at work. Walter nodded slowly. Understand? No, you don't, Marcus replied, but without the earlier anger. You never did. Why then? Walter managed. Marcus glanced at Naomi standing in the doorway. To see if anything had changed, to see if I had. He straightened up, adjusting his jacket. I've called a car, it'll be here in 15 minutes. Just like that? Naomi asked. You're walking away again? I'm not walking away, Marcus insisted. I'm dealing with a crisis. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Angela cleared her throat. I'll just check on dinner, she said tactfully, slipping past Naomi. When she was gone, Walter spoke again, his voice stronger than before. Both stubborn. Despite everything, Naomi found herself smiling slightly. Wonder where we got that from. Sit, Walter said, looking at them both. Please. Marcus hesitated, then sat in the chair beside the bed. Naomi took the one on the other side. Time. Dad, don't strain yourself, Naomi said, concerned by his labored breathing. Need to, he insisted. Marcus stood sorry. For everything. Was wrong. Marcus stared at the floor, his jaw tight. No, Walter admitted. My fault. Lost. Your mother. Lost. Myself. The raw honesty seemed to catch Marcus off guard. You were a good son, Walter continued, fighting for each word. I was bad father. Tears welled in Naomi's eyes. In all her years, she'd never heard her father admit he was wrong about anything. Proud of you. Naomi took it immediately. After a long moment, Marcus did too. Don't need forgive me, Walter said. Just know, I love you. Always did. A tear slid down Marcus's cheek, the first Naomi had seen since they were children. He quickly wiped it away. I have to go, he said, standing up. Will you come back? Naomi asked, not daring to hope. Marcus looked at their father, then at her. It wasn't everything, but it was something. A start. Walter nodded, seeming satisfied. Go do important work. For the first time, there was no sarcasm, no dismissal in his tone when he referred to Marcus's career, just simple acknowledgement. Marcus bent down and, in a move that shocked Naomi, briefly pressed his forehead to their father's. Goodbye, Dad. Then he was gone, the front door closing quietly behind him. Naomi sat with her father, both of them silent as they listened to the car arrive and depart. He'll be back, Walter said finally, his voice fading as exhaustion overtook him. I hope so, Naomi replied, but she wasn't sure if her father heard her. He had drifted off to sleep, his face more peaceful than she'd seen it in years. The next morning, Naomi woke early and checked on her father. He was still sleeping, his breathing even. Angela, who had stayed overnight, assured her everything was stable. Why don't you take a shower, get some fresh air, Angela suggested. I'll call you if anything changes. The morning was bright and warm, the air heavy with the promise of another hot Memphis day. Grateful for the chance to clear her head, Naomi took a long shower, then decided to walk to the corner coffee shop. As she waited for her order, her phone rang. Elias's name flashed on the screen. Elias, is everything okay? Did Marcus make it back? He's here, Elias confirmed. Already at the office, damage control mode. But that's not why I'm calling. Something in his tone made her nervous. What is it? There's something you need to know, Naomi, about the night Marcus left. She stepped outside with her coffee, finding a quiet spot on a bench. What about it? Dad wanted him to take a job at the factory instead of pursuing his degree. You didn't even know Marcus back then. Did your father ever tell you why they really fought? It was about Marcus's future, Naomi said, confused. That was part of it, Elias agreed, but not the main reason. What? How do you know about a letter? It was in a box of old papers, still sealed. When I asked him about it, he told me to throw it away. I didn't. How would you know? Naomi asked, suddenly suspicious. For 3 years? And last night, after everything that happened, I finally opened it. Naomi was having trouble processing this. But after meeting you, after seeing how much you care about bringing your family back together, I had to know what was in it. No, but I've seen the letter. What letter? Elias took a deep breath. The one your father sent Marcus about 6 months after he left. The one Marcus never opened. Naomi nearly dropped her coffee. That doesn't make sense. Marcus would never... Because I found it when I was helping MJ move into his new apartment 3 years ago. A company that had been caught falsifying trial data that had covered up serious side effects in their drugs. He was afraid Marcus would be corrupted by them, would compromise his principles for a paycheck. You kept a letter addressed to my brother? I kept it because I could tell it mattered, even if he pretended it didn't. You had no right... I know, Elias interrupted. and MJ will probably fire me when he finds out. Westmark has been gunning for Carrington Biotech for years. They see MJ as a threat because his research is legitimate, while theirs isn't always. The same company that's now claiming Carrington Biotech stole their research, the same company that's behind the FDA investigation. And MJ is too focused on fighting the immediate battle to see the bigger picture. Ethical, transparent, honest, but MJ is so busy being perfect on paper that he's cutting himself off from what makes him human, from what would make him different from them. The part of him that's still Marcus Ellison made it sound like he thought Marcus wasn't good enough for a career in science, when what he really meant was that Marcus was too good for that particular company. But I'm not sorry I told you. Naomi's heart was pounding. And? He spent 8 years thinking your father believed he was worthless, when in reality your father was trying to save him from making a huge mistake. Your father was trying to protect Marcus that night, Elias said. From himself. What are you talking about? If Marcus knew the truth about that night, about why their father had been so adamant, they're taking him to Memphis General. Could it heal the rift between them? Could it bring back the brother she'd lost? Tonight, the letter explains everything. Your father found out that Marcus had been offered a position at a pharmaceutical company with a history of unethical practices. His face was ashen, his breathing shallow. The paramedics worked efficiently around her, checking vitals, starting an IV. Naomi shook her head. Marcus needed to know the truth before it was too late. Their father had been trying to protect him all along, in his own flawed way. The company was Westmark Pharmaceuticals, Elias continued. Naomi felt like the ground was shifting beneath her. Why wouldn't Dad just tell Marcus that? Why turn it into a huge fight? According to the letter, he tried. But he'd been drinking, said it all wrong. Walter was rushed to the ICU, leaving Naomi alone in the waiting room. And Marcus never knew, Naomi said slowly, because he never opened the letter. Exactly. Naomi stood up, suddenly desperate to get home. I need to tell him. Both of them. This changes everything. But the doctors don't know for how long. You need to come back. That's why I called, Elias said. MJ, Marcus, needs to know the truth before it's too late. Wait, Naomi said, a thought occurring to her. How did you get my number? There was a pause. From MJ's phone that first day. I hope you don't mind. No, thank you for telling me this. And you need to. There's something you don't know, something important about the night you left. There's one more thing, Elias said, his voice softer now. The FDA investigation. It's not random. Are you saying they're targeting him deliberately? Because he sees what this estrangement has done to you. Dad wasn't trying to hold you back that night. He was trying to keep you from compromising your principles for a company that didn't deserve your talent. From Westmark Pharmaceuticals, he knew they were corrupt and he was afraid they'd corrupt you too. I'm saying there's a lot at stake here, Elias replied. Which is? Westmark. They offered me a job after graduation, a good one. Dad found out somehow that the best way to beat Westmark is to be everything they're not. And now they're the ones behind the FDA investigation. They've been targeting you for years. His family, Naomi realized. Dad is dying, Marcus. Whatever happened in the past, whatever misunderstandings there were, they don't matter now. What matters is that you're here, that you get to say goodbye. His humanity, Elias corrected. Naomi started walking quickly toward home. I need to tell Dad about the letter. Then I'm coming back to New York. I'll meet you at the airport, Elias promised. And Naomi, I'm sorry I went behind MJ's back. Neither am I, she said, meaning it. Thank you, Elias, for caring enough to meddle. She could hear the smile in his voice. Any time. As she hurried home, Naomi's mind raced with possibilities. She was so lost in thought that she almost didn't notice the ambulance parked in front of her house, lights flashing. Her heart stopped. Dad, she whispered, breaking into a run. Angela met her at the door, her face grave. He had another stroke, a big one. Dad is holding on. Thank you for telling me about the letter. And he's coming home. Some connections were worth fighting for. Her father and brother. that their father would hold on long enough for the reconciliation that was 8 years overdue. And maybe, just maybe, whatever was beginning between her and Elias. And Naomi, when this is over, whatever happens, don't disappear again. Some connections are worth fighting for. Is he? Naomi couldn't finish the question. He's alive, Angela assured her. But it's not good. You should go with him. In a daze, Naomi climbed into the ambulance beside her father's stretcher. With him? She quickly texted back. You're in Memphis? Dad, I'm here, she said, taking his good hand. I'm right here. Naomi sat alone, nursing a cold cup of coffee, watching the minutes tick by on the wall clock. Her father had stabilized but remained unconscious. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, but Naomi had seen the concern in their eyes. There was no response, not even a flicker of recognition in his eyes. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, Naomi felt a sense of terrible urgency. But now time was running out, and Marcus was hundreds of miles away fighting the wrong battle. How are you holding up? He asked quietly. But I'm glad you're here, both of you. At the hospital, everything was a blur of forms and questions and worried doctors. With shaking hands, she called Marcus. The simple declaration brought tears to Naomi's eyes. Family only, I'm afraid. Their father lay still, tubes and wires connecting. Naomi, I can't talk right now, he answered, his voice distracted. I'm in the middle of... The night air was thick with humidity, the parking lot eerily quiet under the fluorescent lights. The doctors say the next few hours are critical. Dad had another stroke, she interrupted. It's bad, Marcus, really bad. There was a moment of silence. Is he... Both men looked rumpled and tired, a stark contrast to their usual polished appearance. Still alive, she said. I can't just... Yes, you can, she cut in. Naomi, this isn't the time. Dad was trying to protect you, she pushed on. There was a long silence. What are you talking about? He wrote you a letter explaining everything, 6 months after you left. But you never opened it. How do you know about that letter? Marcus's voice had changed, become sharper. Elias found it. He read it. He what? The fury in Marcus's voice was palpable. That letter was private. He had no right. He did it because he cares about you, Naomi insisted. Marcus was quiet for so long that Naomi thought they'd been disconnected. Marcus, are you there? I'm here, he said finally, his voice oddly hollow. Yes, Naomi confirmed. Another long silence. I need to think about this. No, you need to come back to Memphis, Naomi said firmly. She heard him take a deep breath. I'll be on the next flight. Relief washed over her. Thank you. And Naomi, tell him I'm coming. Make sure he knows. I will, she promised, tears filling her eyes. I will. As she hung up, a doctor approached, his face solemn. Ms. Ellison, your father is asking for you. She followed him to the ICU, where Walter lay surrounded by machines. He looked smaller somehow, frailer, but his eyes were open, searching for her. Dad, I'm here, she said, taking his hand. Marcus, he asked, the word barely audible. He's coming, Naomi assured him, squeezing his hand. He's on his way right now. A tear slid from the corner of Walter's eye. Good, he whispered. Tell him. He knows, Dad, Naomi said. About the letter, about Westmark. He knows you were trying to protect him. Walter's eyes widened slightly. How? It's a long story, she said, smiling through her tears. But he knows now. Walter's grip tightened on her hand, a ghost of his former strength. Wait. For him. Yes, Naomi promised. We'll wait for him. Together. Outside the hospital room, as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the floor, Naomi texted Elias, He's coming back. His reply came moments later. Safe travels to Marcus. She stared at the message, warmth spreading through her chest despite the fear and sadness. Now she just had to hope that Marcus would make it in time. In the hospital bed, Walter Ellison's breathing was labored but steady, waiting, hoping, just like his daughter, just like the son who was finally coming home. The waiting room at Memphis General Hospital was quiet at 3 in the morning. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Elias. "Just heard from MJ. His flight lands in 20 minutes. I'm with him." Naomi stared at the message in confusion. "On MJ's private jet. He asked me to come. Hope that's okay." A wave of relief washed over her. She wouldn't have to face this alone anymore. She headed to the hospital entrance to wait for them. A sleek black car pulled up and Marcus stepped out, followed by Elias. "How is he?" Marcus asked without preamble. "Stable," Naomi said, "but still unconscious." Marcus nodded, his face grim. "Take me to him." As they walked through the sterile corridors, Elias fell into step beside Naomi. "I've been better," she admitted. Elias smiled, brief but warm. "Wouldn't be anywhere else." At the ICU, a nurse stopped them. "He's family," Marcus said, nodding toward Elias. Inside Walter's room, the beeping of monitors and the hiss of oxygen created a somber soundtrack. Him to various machines. Marcus approached the bed slowly, as if steeling himself. "He looks so small," he said, his voice barely audible. "The stroke affected more of his brain this time," Naomi explained. "The doctors aren't sure how much function he'll recover when he wakes up." After a moment's hesitation, he took his father's limp hand in his own. Marcus pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. "I'm here, Dad," he said, his voice stronger now. "It's Marcus." There was no response, but the heart monitor beeped steadily on. Elias touched Naomi's shoulder. "And?" It was yellowed with age, the address written in a shaky hand. Marcus Ellison with no forwarding address. Even though I already told him what it said. "I wanted to be here, for both of you." "Let's give them a moment," he suggested. "I can't believe you flew all the way here." In the hallway, Naomi leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. He got very quiet, started making calls to arrange the flight, asked me to come with him. "Marcus asked me to bring the letter," Elias explained. "The letter, you still have it." His lips moved, forming words with no sound. Elias nodded, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. Recognition dawned in them as they settled on Marcus's face. "I thought he might want to read it himself," Elias said. He looked up as they entered, his eyes red-rimmed but dry. Naomi stared at the envelope. "How did he react when you told him?" "He was angry at first," Elias admitted. "Felt like I'd betrayed his trust. But then, something changed. I'll give you some time, but don't tire him out." "Thank you," Naomi said, impulsively taking his hand. "For taking that risk. For caring enough to get involved." Elias looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. "Some things are worth the risk." The moment was interrupted as a doctor approached. "Miss Ellison?" "Yes, I know why you were so against Westmark now. Why you tried to stop me. Your father's showing signs of increased brain activity. He might be waking up." They hurried back into the room, where Marcus was still sitting beside the bed, speaking softly to Walter. "But at the time, all I heard was that I wasn't good enough, that my dreams were worthless." "The doctor says he might be waking up," Naomi explained. As if on cue, Walter's eyelids fluttered. "Dad?" Marcus leaned closer. "Can you hear me?" Walter's eyes opened fully, focusing with effort. "She would have been ashamed of how we've acted, both of us." "Son," he managed, the word little more than a breath. "Always was. Built something. Good." Elias stood respectfully by the door, witnessing but not intruding on the family moment. Not like them, but enough. Got what needed. "I'm here," Marcus said, gripping his father's hand tighter. "I came back. Both. This is good. His brain needs rest to heal. You should all get some rest too. He'll need you strong when he wakes again." Years of hurt and anger warring with the simple plea of a dying man. The doctor, who had been monitoring from the doorway, stepped in. Finally, he nodded. "I forgive you, Dad, and I hope you can forgive me too for staying away so long, for changing my name, for trying to erase where I came from." Walter's lips curved in the ghost of a smile. "Knew you would." The doctor stepped forward to check vitals, seeming pleased with what he found. "This is good, very good." When they were alone again, Walter's gaze moved from Marcus to Naomi, then to Elias, questioning. "This is Elias," Naomi explained. "He works with Marcus. He's the one who found your letter." Dad was right. I've built something different from Westmark because I am different. And I have the truth on my side, because of the values he and Mom taught me, even if I tried to forget them. Understanding flickered in Walter's eyes. "The letter. Read it. I have some things I need to say to him, even if he can't hear me. Thank you again for coming, for bringing the letter, for everything. Tell the world about Westmark's history of targeting competitors, of falsifying their own data. Let the court of public opinion decide." Marcus nodded, his expression somber. "I meant what I said before. Marcus and his father." "The timing is terrible," she agreed. "But sometimes life doesn't wait for perfect timing," Naomi asked, her heart beating faster despite her exhaustion. "You and Marcus, and—" He hesitated, then finished. "You and me. Some connections are worth fighting for." The cold-controlled MJ Carrington was giving way to something warmer, something more human. He still wore the expensive suits, still carried himself with confidence, but the walls were coming down brick by brick. "Not against you," Walter said, each word a struggle. "For you." His calm competence and unwavering support became something both Naomi and Marcus relied on. "I know that now," Marcus acknowledged. His lips moved, forming words they couldn't quite hear. "My fault," Walter admitted. "Said it wrong. Always did." "We both said things we didn't mean," Marcus conceded. "Things we can't take back. Get some rest." The sound of the alarm seemed distant, unreal. A nurse came in to silence it, followed by the doctor, who confirmed what they already knew. "We'll figure it out when this is all over." Elias stood respectfully aside, giving them space to grieve. Walter's breathing had become more labored concerning Naomi. "Dad, you should rest. We can talk more later." But Walter shook his head, determined. Say now." He looked directly at Marcus. "Proud of you." "Westmark," Marcus clarified. "No, not like them. We do honest research, real science." The rest of the time he was at his father's bedside, talking to him about his life in New York, about Carrington Biotech, about the years they'd lost. I visited her grave every year on her birthday. It was the one connection to the past I couldn't let go of. "Because who you are," Walter insisted. "Good man like your mother." He looked around, taking in the worn furniture, the faded wallpaper. "We could fix it up, rent it out, or sell it, if that's what you want. I thought you'd forgotten everything about us. Sorry to interrupt, but there's news from New York. You can't erase no matter how hard you try. That never changed, even when I pretended it did. And," he paused, a smile spreading across his face, "the whistleblower at Westmark came forward, publicly, with documents. It's time the world saw it too." The mention of their mother brought fresh emotion to Marcus's face. "Yes," Walter agreed simply. "Forgive me? She's expecting you when we get back to New York." Apparently, she's had evidence of Westmark's corruption for years, was just waiting for the right moment to use it. Walter drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid, sometimes confused, but each time he woke, his eyes sought out Marcus first, as if making sure his son was still there. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "Carrington Biotech has been talking about starting a foundation, educational outreach, scholarships for underprivileged kids interested in science. It needs someone to run it, someone who understands education, who cares about helping others." "Nothing to forgive," Walter said, his good hand squeezing Marcus's weakly. "My boy, always my boy. Or you could take some time, figure out your next steps. I have plenty of room." Tears spilled down Marcus's cheeks now, unashamed. "Yes, always." Naomi moved to the other side of the bed, taking her father's other hand, completing the circle. "And your apartment lease is month to month. You told me that yourself. Not just for the funeral, but to stay, for a while at least. Family. Together," Walter said, satisfaction in his tired voice. Now, can rest. Don't talk like that, Naomi said quickly. You're getting better. But Walter's eyes were knowing. Time, short. He looked at Elias then, surprising them all. Take care. Them. Elias nodded solemnly. I will, sir. I promise. Walter's eyes drifted closed, his breathing becoming more even. He's sleeping now, he assured them. But something in his tone told Naomi that when might really be if. In the waiting room, Marcus paced restlessly while Naomi and Elias sat side by side, drawing comfort from each other's presence. What happens now? Naomi asked her brother. With Westmark, with the FDA investigation? Marcus stopped pacing, his expression hardening. Now I fight back, the right way, with the truth. What do you mean? Elias asked. I mean, Marcus said, that it's time MJ Carrington remembered where he came from, who he came from. But the FDA, Elias began. We'll get full transparency, Marcus finished. Our research is solid. Our methods are ethical. We have nothing to hide. And if that's not enough? Naomi asked. Marcus smiled grimly. Then we go public. That's risky, Elias warned. They have powerful friends. So do I, Marcus replied. For the first time since she'd found him at the airport, Naomi saw a glimpse of the brother she remembered, principled, determined, unafraid to stand up for what was right. Get some sleep, Marcus told them. I'll take the first watch with Dad. After he left, Naomi leaned her head against Elias's shoulder, too tired to maintain pretenses. Elias's arm slipped around her, natural and comforting. She looked up at him, finding his eyes warm and intent on hers. Which connections are you talking about exactly? All of them, he said softly. Is there a you and me? I'd like there to be, Elias admitted. I know the timing is terrible, and we barely know each other, but... Naomi pressed a finger to his lips. Elias took her hand, kissing her palm gently. Promise. Promise. The next 3 days passed in a blur of hospital rooms, doctor consultations, and brief naps on uncomfortable waiting room chairs. And Marcus was. He left the hospital only once, to make a series of important calls from the privacy of his hotel room. Naomi watched the change in her brother with wonder and gratitude. Elias divided his time between supporting them at the hospital and handling the business crisis from afar. On the fourth morning, Walter took a turn for the worse. His breathing became labored, his heart rate erratic. The doctors were blunt. The end was near. The three of them gathered around his bed, Naomi and Marcus holding their father's hands. Elias, a steady presence behind them. Dad, Marcus said, his voice gentle. We're all here with you. It's okay to let go now. Walter's eyes fluttered open one last time, finding each of their faces in turn. Marcus leaned closer. What is it, Dad? Family, Walter whispered. My family. His eyes closed, and moments later the monitors flat-lined. Walter Ellison was gone. In the quiet aftermath, Marcus pulled Naomi into a hug, holding her while she cried. Later, as they sat in Walter's house, the emptiness of it echoing around them, Marcus finally broke the silence. I want to move him to New York, he said, to be buried next to Mom. Naomi looked up in surprise. You know where she's buried. Marcus nodded. All these years, Naomi said, shaking her head in wonder. I tried to, Marcus admitted. But some things, some people... What about the house? She asked. Dad's things. We'll sort through it together, Marcus promised. Take what matters, what holds memories. As for the house... I don't know what I want, Naomi confessed. Everything's changing so fast. Not everything, Marcus said, his eyes meeting hers. You're still my sister. Elias, who had been making coffee in the kitchen, appeared in the doorway. Marcus tensed. The FDA. They've closed the investigation, Elias confirmed. Found no evidence of wrongdoing on our part. What? Marcus stood, stunned. Who? Dr. Richard Carrington's widow, Elias said. Martha? Marcus whispered. Why would she... She said, Elias continued, reading from his phone, Richard always believed in that young man's integrity. Marcus sat back down, overwhelmed. I need to call her, thank her. Already arranged, Elias assured him. We? Naomi asked, looking between them. I was hoping, Marcus said carefully, that you might come back with us. My job, my apartment. Can wait, Marcus finished for her. The school year just ended. You have the summer. What would I do in New York, Naomi asked, though the idea was already taking root in her mind. Whatever you want, Marcus said simply. I have connections at schools there if you want to continue teaching. Actually, Elias interjected, I might have another idea. Naomi stared at him. Are you offering me a job? We're offering you an opportunity, Marcus corrected, to build something meaningful, something that would honor both our parents. I don't know anything about running a foundation, Naomi protested. You know about teaching, Elias said, about connecting with people. No pressure, and Elias, whose quiet strength and kindness had become so important to her in such a short time, just don't disappear from my life again. For the funeral and after, we'll see. Please. Fresh flowers adorned both headstones now. Catherine Ellison and beside her, Walter Ellison. The funeral had been small but dignified, attended by a few old friends from Memphis, and, surprisingly, several of Marcus's colleagues who had known him only as M.J. Carrington. The rest you can learn. Think about it, Marcus urged. Naomi looked between these two men, her brother, slowly finding his way back to himself. I'll come to New York, she decided. I'm going to do it, but on one condition. To make things right. The Ellison Foundation, he repeated, testing the words. I like it, Marcus smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. That's all I'm asking for, a chance. How they shape us, define us. You became M.J. Carrington to escape your past, but the foundation will be Ellison to reclaim it. Marcus asked, am I still M.J. Carrington or Marcus Ellison? Maybe it's time to stop running from who I was while still embracing who I've become. 2 weeks later, Naomi stood at her mother's grave in the peaceful cemetery outside New York City. Not Carrington. I want it to honor who we really are, where we came from. I think they would be proud, Marcus said, joining her at the graves, of both of us. Even with all our mistakes, Naomi asked. Though the business cards will be a nightmare. A healing sound. Especially then, Marcus replied. Dad taught me something important at the end, that it's never too late to try again. Places like Memphis, where talent gets overlooked because of poverty or lack of opportunities. They stood in comfortable silence, the summer breeze rustling the trees around them. In the past 2 weeks, amidst the grief and arrangements, they had found moments to talk, to get to know each other better. We're taking it slow, there's no rush. Nothing rushed, nothing defined, but something real growing between them. Have you decided? Marcus asked finally. About the foundation. How a simple text message in an airport had brought her brother back to her. How a letter, 8 years too late, had helped heal a broken family. Not when we expect them. Naomi nodded. Name it. And maybe, just maybe, something even more unexpected. A chance at love with a man who had helped bring her family back together. The fear that her family was broken beyond repair. That it's the Ellison Foundation, she said firmly. A chance to rebuild what had been lost and to create something new from the foundations of the past. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Welcome home, Naomi, he said softly. Behind her, Marcus was already on his phone handling some business matter with his usual efficiency. But when he caught her looking, he winked, a gesture so reminiscent of the brother she'd grown up with that it made her heart soar. And one more thing, Naomi added. I want to focus on kids from the South. Some things are worth taking your time with. Done, Marcus agreed immediately. Whatever you need to make it happen. I've been thinking about names a lot lately, Naomi said thoughtfully. And what about me? I think, Naomi said carefully, that you can be both, the best parts of each. Marcus considered this. Maybe you're right. Marcus Ellison Carrington, Naomi suggested, has a nice ring to it. It does, he agreed with a small smile. They laughed together, the sound carrying on the breeze. Elias is waiting by the car, Marcus noted. He's been very patient. Naomi felt a flutter in her chest at the mention of Elias's name. He's a good man, she said simply. The best, Marcus agreed. You could do worse. Is that your brotherly approval? Naomi teased. It's my brotherly observation, Marcus replied. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Naomi blushed, glancing toward the car where Elias waited, pretending not to watch them. Good, Marcus said. As they walked back to the car, Naomi felt a weight lifting. Not the grief, which would take its own time to heal, but the burden of loss she'd carried for 8 years. Elias opened the car door for her, his smile warm and private. In the car driving back to the city, Naomi looked out at the passing landscape, thinking about messages, the ones we send, the ones we receive, and the ones that get lost along the way. Penny for your thoughts, Elias said quietly, his hand finding hers between the seats. I was just thinking, Naomi replied, about how sometimes the most important messages are the ones that find us when we need them most. Marcus, overhearing, nodded in agreement. Like a message to the past, he said, that ends up changing the future instead. As the New York skyline came into view, Naomi felt a sense of possibility opening before her. A new city, a new purpose. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever was. But this time she wouldn't be doing it alone. This time she had her brother back. As if reading her thoughts, Elias squeezed her hand gently. And for the first time in years, it truly felt like she was. The end.